first and foremost, I'm not a studio and I don't have perfect lighting. I'm gonna give you the best that I can give. But what I have here is Coffee Talk from Sydney Grace. This is the order of the shades for a Coffee Talk, but I do have it depotted. And then have the Natasha Denona Glam, and then this is the Alter Ego Shadow Kiss. The big differences with Coffee Talk are going to be Coffee Talk has 5 mattes, and so does Shadow Kiss, and so does the Natasha Denona Glam, but the mattes aren't the same. So as far as what color values we have, so that's a little bit of a difference, that none of the shimmers are the same. So complementary, yes, same, no. So let me just show you crease. And the closest we have to crease would be, I'm just gonna open this. I do have the shade names written on the back of the palette, but I love that this is magnetic. Let me show you. That's crease, here's cold brew. So you might think the closest to crease would be here. This is frap, but it's actually not. It's somewhere in between. Okay, so this one here is crease, Natasha Denona crease. Then right here we have cold brew. A little bit of a bigger swatch, sorry. And then that is frap. So let me get a little bit more of a crease. So the shade is almost in between the other two shades. Performance on both are still great, as always. You know, nothing different or surprising about that. The shade that would be similar here is going to be Desire. So the Alter Ego, I'm just going to put off to the side. They're soft, they're creamy. I showed you transition, there isn't one crease. So next is going to be Lash Line compared to Espresso. Lash Line. And here is Espresso. As far as to the touch, they feel very much the same, but Lash Line is much darker. This is a very interesting eyeshadow because the in the pan and applied, it is accurate, but you can tell it's also warmer. So one of the other things I would say is the big difference is that if Glam was too cool for you, Coffee Talk is warmer. Now Coffee Talk looks really cold. When you're looking at it in the palette when you get it, I even thought it was going to be too cold, and it turns out it's actually not as cool as it appears, except for one shade that almost throws the entire thing. So Lash Line and Coffee Talk, Lash Line and Espresso. And then this one is Umber. And then Umber is the same, just more patchy. They can be built up, but the quality is not the same. The Shadow Kiss quality, the Alter Ego quality across the board is just not the same. So is it terrible? No, but it isn't the same. So color dupe, not formula dupe. And then let's do the blend shade. So this is Blend. And you're going to see Blend is actually very, very similar to Macchiato. To Frap. And I'm just going to do Frap. Oh, a little bit harder with them not being in their pants. And Macchiato. So this is Frap again. And this is Macchiato. Macchiato being warmer. So this shade is a little bit on the more neutral side, and Blend is as cool toned as it appeared. And then Smoke. Do you see how much darker Smoke is? Smoke is actually like the warmer version of the Espresso shade. It's kind of an interesting thing to me because I think somewhere in some ways this is going to lean cooler and this is going to lean warmer and vice versa. It's kind of a weird thing. But there is one more shade in this palette. This is Java. And you can see Java and Smoke are really similar. So I guess if you were going to compare them, my biggest comparison between these two, I mean, and I'm not going to show, I can show you the rest of these, I guess, really quick, but they're shade, they're not, they don't have the pigment. Even building them up, rubbing them, doing all of the things, they just don't have the pigment. In my opinion, you can buy 50 inexpensive dupe palettes, or you can save up and buy these. I purchased this on Mercari. I paid maybe even less than $60 for it, and I sold other things to pay for that, so I ended up paying nothing for it. You can tell with the mattes there is a lot of similarity besides transition, which you can't even see, but this is transition. But I do find these to be just kind of neutral, usable shades that you would use with anything, but the mattes are really similar. I would say almost that you don't need both when it comes to the mattes. The shimmers are where it really changes. Formulas for both are really good. Oh, I do want to show you though, cold. Somehow I don't think did I show you Cold Brew? Cold Brew is a weird color. So it looks like this taupey brown that is sort of cool toned, and it goes on. And Cold Brew is just a kind of an unusual shade. And I guess I did put it on here, but I think my finger was actually dirty for that swatch because that is not an accurate swatch of Cold Brew. That's an accurate swatch of Cold Brew. It is like a grubby concrete color. So it looks really great, but then when you use it, this is such a cool shade. If cool toned eyeshadows aren't your thing, this is the shade that really threw the entire palette for me, and I know other people who feel the same. So if you get this palette and it throws you, you could even just take Cold Brew out and throw something else in. Another thing to note is both of these palettes are magnetic, but neither of them are labeled on the back. So I've gone through and I've taken them and I've actually used a fine point permanent marker, marked it as Frap. I do have stickers I'll print that will say Sydney Grace, Coffee Talk palette, and then the shade being Frap, and then I'll stick those on the back, but for the time being, I did this. So I just wanted you to see where we're at with those. So we have outer eyelid right here. This is just spangly. I'm going to keep Natasha Denona on the top. That's outer eyelid. Center eyelid. Very pink. Inner corner. Peachy. Very peachy. Now lower middle row, inner corner. We have a very champagne silver. Now center eyelid. Now this might look barely touched, and it's because I've actually never used it. I bought this and I've been saving this, so I haven't let myself actually even use this yet. I'm swatching it for you before I've even used it. Sort of sad, actually. And we have this gold. Sorry, I have some flaking from another shade on it. Center eyelid. Outer eyelid. This is a very true oil rubbed bronze shade. Now we have a gold that is much more in the champagne gold family. So I always think of this as like gold jewelry, and that's like a champagne gold. Now we have another outer eyelid. This is such a beautiful taupe, almost a brown. Like that's almost like a dark brown. And then we have outer or brow bone here, which is another champagne, but with a little bit more peach. So that is Glam. And I mean, arguably, this is like your starter metallics what more could you need? You even have this spangly topper shade, but it's not as toppery as Natasha Denona can be, which I like. So that's beautiful. I'm going to just show you and compare for you a couple. So here's Fog. This would be the comparison shade for the spangly shade. And you can see they did a good job on those. But I would argue that mattes are harder to formulate. I'm sorry, that was Shroud. This is Fog. Fog, Veil, Mist, Dare. This is Zeal. I love that word, Zeal. And then Tempt. So I'm reading this upside down. Whoop. Clean finger touched that. That's Tempt. All of these are pretty much identical. And I think that's why people say that these palettes are dupes for each other. Eclipse. And finally, are we at Disguise? I think right here. So shimmers are not as hard to formulate though. So there you go with the Alter Ego versus the Glam. If you just want it for the shimmers, Alter Ego is a great way to go. But if you care about the mattes, save up and get the Glam. Crema is our first shade. This is not a major shimmer. I would say this is almost a satin. It's got a lot of light to it, but when you look at it at the pan, you don't realize it has that kind of light to it. Great brow bone shade. It's a great inner corner shade. It's a great all over the lid shade. But you can see where their mattes were warmer. That is pretty icy. Then this shade here is Ristretto. Ristretto is one of my favorites. Nothing really like it from this, though. I would say inner corner from the middle row right here is the closest. Maybe center eyelid is close as well. And then we have Latte and Cup of Joe. Latte and Cup of Joe. So Cup of Joe almost has a green undertone to it. This is really different from any of these shades. It's like a bronze, sort of a topaz. Yeah, this is a metallic oil rubbed bronze sort of a shade. So this is a dark one. This is very much like the oil rubbed bronze as well. I think about like my light fixtures that are oil rubbed bronze, and they go so brown, and but then they can have these patinas that are more bright. And then Latte. So, you know, if this is helpful, I hope that it is, but definitely I think one of the things that's helped me though with Coffee Talk is taking it out of its packaging to really see what it is, because seeing it in this palette that has much more neutral and cool, I found that the packaging itself threw me. And so yeah, there you go. I would also say that if you have Stone Cold Fox, it's much cooler than all of this. Much, much cooler. So if you were thinking, well, what about Stone Cold Fox? I don't have it anymore. I gave it away, but it is much cooler than either one of these. So then that is it for these. And the reason I have these depotted is because I've actually been working on a different dupe. And so I'll just do a separate video and I'll show you that other dupe that I thought would be helpful for a lot of us who've been looking for this discontinued, unreleased palette. So there you go. That is Coffee Talk versus Natasha Denona Glam versus Alter Ego Shadow Kiss. So that's what we have.